Welcome everyone to The Rift. I am your co-host, Jeremy Culver, aka Darcy.
And I'm Kyle Doom Gloria.
Kyle, this is the first time people are going to be seeing our face when we do this show. Kyle, I know that this has been something we've been wanting to do for a while, but we're now finally making it happen. So I have to ask you, just because it's been a while since we did an episode, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, man. As you said, first time. Hey, everybody. I'm Kyle. but I'm doing good, man. It's Summer Sweat is coming around the corner fast. Well, this coming weekend, and this is the big one for these teams. So it's going to be exciting to see what ends up happening.
Yeah, this is for all the marbles. I mean, this is at the end of this, we will figure out who is going to Worlds, who is going to be going into relegation, which that'll be a discussion for a future episode. And then in turn, who is still good in the LCS, but will be going home because, we always have that. Kyle, that's kind of where we're going to start today's episode, is we are going to discuss some of our outlooks for the summer split. Maybe not as in depth as we did in the spring split, as some of you guys may remember from our episode for the spring split, but enough to get a sense of how we feel, we being Kyle and I, how we feel that these teams are going to perform when it comes to the summer split. So first, Kyle, let's start with the new teams. So in NA, there is no new teams.
No.
Every team that was in the spring split LCS made their way back into the summer split. However, in EU, we have two new teams, and that is not the same teams that actually won their positions into the LCS, because you can't have your academy team in there as well. So Fnatic sold their spot to Ninjas in Pajamas, and then over for the B-side Misfits Academy sold their spot to Mysterious Monkeys. So Kyle, let me ask you first, let's talk a little bit about Ninjas in Pajamas, just because they have a history. How do you feel this team is going to perform in EU in this upcoming split?
I think the team looks pretty good. Decent, of course. I mean, Shook's making his comeback, so that's going to be a pretty fun experiment to watch. See how he adjusts. I mean, we saw Tabs come back, so and of course Tabs was somewhat in a situation that he couldn't really do much. But Shook has a little bit, to me, better uh, coming up with players around him. Of course, so they are in an extremely tough uh, group, being with Misfits and G2 Esports. And I mean, who knows how Fnatic comes, after the last split comes out, and how Rokat, if they come back with what they did at the end of the split, it's going to be a tough road for them. But overall, though, the team looks pretty solid. It's just that the adjustment of them going, being the new team in the bunch. That's the biggest thing, is the adjustment.
That always is the big thing. And as you did say, Fnatic, the way that they did last split, obviously they're going to be trying to reclaim their throne, so to speak. And then Rokat, the way they ended the split, who knows if they can keep that going. I do want to talk a little bit about two people in particular. And you probably anticipated I was going to talk about these guys, because I drafted both of them in our fantasy league. But Nagne and Prophet. So Nagne, I obviously am a big fan of from back when he was on KT Rolster. That guy, showed up and has been probably one of my favorite Korean mid laners since then. And then Prophet, obviously, playing for SKT1. He was the backup, so to speak, to Huni. Him and Huni, split time in games, but Prophet finally is leaving to play full-time. Kyle, how do you feel their game is going to translate in EU, especially with some of these other players around them, like Shook, HeQ, and Spraddle?
I think it's going to be an adjustment, just like any other team. They're going to have to figure out a comfort level of language, if there's language barrier. Um, do you know offhand, who do you think's going to be more so the shot caller, what they're trying to.
That's an interesting piece. If I look at it, I would assume, just based off the roster, it's going to be Shook,
Mhm.
because of his past experience, especially when he was on, Alliance. I'm pretty sure him and Wicked were the shot callers for that team. So I would assume Shook. However, if Nagne can speak English fairly well, maybe it is Nagne, because Nagne, if I remember correctly, was the shot caller for KT Rolster back in the day.
Mhm.
So that's going to be, the big question. But if I was going to guess, I would say it's Shook.
Yeah, depending, as you said, if Nagne can speak at least a decent amount of English or what have you, it may not be as bad of a communication problem as there is. I mean, every team. I mean, by now though, how many splits have we gone to talk about communication issues? With each team, but all teams are adjusting to it now because everybody's in it. You're allowed two imports. Most likely, you're going to get two Korean imports. You know what I mean? Or even from the Chinese, the LPL. You're going to get that language barrier, but by now teams are learning how to adjust, how to help adjust the culture, our culture to, from what they're used to and what have you. But I don't know. It's a lot's gonna come down though overall on that mid lane and top lane. On their shoulders on carrying this team. Shook, he can do damage, but again, he's been out of the league for a little while now, so it'll be an interesting comeback. And the bot lane is kind of a wait and see. We'll have to see how that turns out.
I like Hikyu. Hikyu did great in
Mm-hmm.
the promotion tournament, so I would feel that translates. And Spraddle had his shining moments when he was on, if I remember correctly, Giants Gaming. So I'm not terribly concerned about that bot lane, but yes, it is kind of a wait and see. But overall, I am excited for Ninjas in Pajamas. One, for the name alone. But
Yes.
two, because of their history. I love Ninjas in Pajamas. I always wanted them to be in, the EU LCS. And finally, they got a time where they're back in the LCS. Also, awesome thing. The other team I do want to talk about, and again, they're probably one of my favorites at the moment, based on name alone, is Mysterious Monkeys. Kyle, one, how do you feel about the name? But two, where do you see this team ending? Uh, you know, in the way that this split shakes out.
Well, first off, the name itself is absolutely amazing. I mean, Mysterious Monkeys. And look at their logo. Their logo is awesome. I haven't seen a logo that pretty beastly since uh, what it was that selfies team.
Oh, the Meet Your Makers,
Meet Your Makers
the
logo.
team that had all the issues, and I was a huge fan of until they had all
Yes,
those
yes.
issues.
Awesome logo though. But overall roster, Kazq gets his chance, man. He performed extremely well. Um, through those playoffs, he really stepped it up. Llama Bear, we all know, an extremely good player. Um, uh, he's shown a lot of bright spots. Um, Overall, team looks pretty solid, but I do like the Ninja lineup more so than I do this one. So this one's they got some players on there, but I have more faith in the other in Ninjas, I think, than I do them coming in, anyways.
I agree with you. I have more faith in Ninjas and Pajamas, but at the same time, you know, when they were Misfits Academy really surprised me in getting into the LCS. I mean,
Yes.
they took out the team that me and you expected were a shoe-in to the LCS with Shulk losing out. So this team does have me very interested, and in the fact when they're in a group that is still very strong, because as much as I give flack to EU a lot.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
we we both do.
fantasy,
It's all right.
even my fantasy name gives flack to EU.
We're talking about N eighth grader than you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, as much as I give flack to EU, they are pretty consistently strong. 1 through 10, they're pretty close. Now, will the changes make them stay close? I'm not for sure. But when I look at that, Group B, obviously I would say it's a little easier of a group than I think maybe Group A is. But at the same time, it's going to be strong. And I think Mysterious Monkeys, they're going to be able to hold their own. But when you go up against H2K and Unicorns of Love, and as much as I think Splice isn't as good as they were when they made Worlds, they're still the same team that made Worlds. Splice is a good team. When you're in that same group, obviously there's team vitality, and you never know what's going to come out of that. It's going to be tough no matter what. These new teams are up against big challenges, and it'll be very interesting to see, can they maintain, stick around and stuff. And even if they don't do very good, which is the one thing that I know with the relegation is always very tough as a homeowner. A
Franchise.
I know, and that's again a discussion that we'll have at another time.
Yes.
As a team owner, it's very tough to not want to jump and make changes instantly because things are struggling. Um, these teams, I feel like they may struggle this split, and as long as they can stay up from relegation, I think they'll be better than next season. Like I think these teams will they got to get used to that top tier level, because as we talk about all the time, the LCS to the Challenger Series is vastly different, and the
Oh.
competition level is so much different, and it sometimes can take a split for you to get to that point, to where you're able to battle against these teams, week in, week out. And we usually see these teams do better towards the tail end of the split for that very reason. So it'll be interesting to see how these teams shake out, as the season goes on. But they're up against a big wall.
Oh, huge wall. Like as you said, I mean, kind of like the other group, you do have two powerhouse teams as in H2K and Unicorns, and then you got the other two, which there's a lot of question around how they will perform the split. Adjustments are being made, of course. The meta is shifting. You're going to be getting more of a tanky approach from the jungle. You're going to see more of the Zac play. The Gragas is coming strong. You're going to get the Sedge with the rework coming out with some really good CC. You're going to get more of a tankier meta in the jungle, and you're going to get more of a disruptive jungler now. Not these carries, not the Graves, not the Lee Sims. You're going to see it every once in a while, but you're going to get the more tankiness from there, and then you're going to get the top laners a little bit more freedom to do what they want to do, which can benefit a lot of them. Really quick, Rorlo carries, like, he may benefit more so, especially with the change of the Rift Herald. Uh, Now that it's a tower destroyer, like that first
Yeah.
tower is gone if you get it. So it's gonna bring a whole new game in that top lane and jungle. And with that taking jungle and more so of a carry topper laner, like it's gonna be really interesting in how that all works out.
Quickly before we go on to our next topic, 1 through 5 for Ninja Pajamas and 1 through 5, obviously, for Mysterious Monkeys. Where do you think they will end up at the end of the split in your mind?
Um, I think that Ninja can possibly highest 3. Low.
No, 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 no. You don't put a range. You don't
I
put a range. Just
high
one.
is 3.
All right.
Mysterious. Hmm, I'll go 4.
Oh man, it's like you read my mind because I got the same thing. I still think Team Vitality is going to struggle, and I have
Yeah,
them at 5.
exactly. Sadly.
Ninjas and Pajamas again. Since I have a little more confidence in them, I think they can get 3. Um, but then again, as you already alluded to, and in a future video, guys, just be ready. We're going to be discussing the thoughts of franchise and stuff. So watch out for it. All right. Anyway, so the next thing that I want to talk about is the top teams. So essentially, top 2 teams from NA, top 2 teams from EU. We're going to talk about them real quick. About, do we think they will stay the top 2 teams, and will they stay the same 1-2? Will they flip flop? Could they drop? Essentially, we'll do that. So just because we were talking about EU, let's stay over in EU. And obviously, top 2 teams, G2 Esports, and then you have Unicorns of Love. So Kyle, first off, are they going to stay the same, or are we going to see a little bit of changes? Because as much as I would still say MSI was not the greatest showing still for the Western teams, G2 Esports did show up.
They did.
So what's your thoughts?
I'm thinking G2 is still the powerhouse, the #1 top dog in EU. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, of course, we all know how they tend to lose a game all the time. They always just give that one, but still, they always come out strong. They always come out on top, and they're just hands down overall roster rise. They just continue to grow and become better, especially when it's extremely important for them to do so. And then after that, I think Unicorns has definitely a good shot at finishing 2 still, but they got definitely tough competitions in Misfits. So, but overall, I think.
Well, they don't have Misfits in their group.
Well, that is true. That is true.
So that
they'll
could
be
benefit
top.
them.
Yeah, that could benefit them. In Group B though, Unicorn's still top to me. H2K, I mean, good team, but I still just Unicorns play just seems so dominant at times, and it's gonna be interesting though to see how um the jungle changes is going to work out though for the junglers of those 2 teams and see who benefits more so than the other.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that the tank jungles will benefit Jankos a little bit more. And the only reason I say that is because Jankos has been playing competitively, obviously, for a while now, and has been through several times where it has been the tank junglers. It's still out if Cersei can do tank junglers yet. I'm not saying he can't, because most pro players can, but can he strive in that situation? But I have a small feeling. I will say this. I think at the end of the day, G2 is going to still be #1. Mm-hmm. And I do think Unicorns of Love is still going to be #2. H2K is going to be really close. I think they'll be technically 3 and Misfits 4. I feel like having an extra split under H2K's shoulders
it's going to really benefit them.
Yes. But the one thing that I want to say is I would not be surprised if Unicorns of Love take #1. And the reason being is the way they showed up last split, I think surprised all of us. Okay, let me say it this way. It definitely surprised me and you. I would say that.
For sure.
You week out, we kept saying, especially early on, was like, they're doing great, but we don't think that it's going to continue. They're doing great, but we don't think that's going to continue. And then it got to the point where we're like, they're actually good. They're deal, And so it makes me think that this team is going to take that next step because, as you know, I love Exile. I'm a Vizicsacsi fan, hands down. Hylissing is awesome. Zerzy, obviously, rookie of the split. That this team is going to continue to get better. I don't see them hitting a plateau just yet. And in my opinion, I think G2 Esports is closer to hitting their plateau, just because this team has been together long enough that I feel like I don't know how much better they can get. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why I would not be surprised at the end of the season we get done and Unicorns of Love finally win their first split trophy. Um, but realistically wise, without looking at the bright side of things, I still think G2 Esports is number one and Unicorns of Love is number two, and I think that's how it's going to be basically getting represented over in Worlds will be 1-2 in that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially like you said, I think it's going to benefit unicorns uh, having another split under their belt. So now that they went through spring, they were. I mean, they come in and we saw how dominant they were. They didn't. They had that one minor slowdown, but it wasn't enough that they the following week they just came right back. It was just a little hiccup, and they were able to adjust and take right back off. And the performance from everyone on that team was just at such a high level that to me, I'd have to agree. The only thing they have now is to move upward. I don't think they move downward.
Yeah. Now let's talk about in NA, which obviously I know you've probably been waiting for this discussion, which is top two teams, TSM and Cloud9. So, Kyle, when you look at these two teams, set your bias aside for a second. But when you look at these two teams, um, do you still think they stay TSM 1, Cloud9 2? Do you think they flip? Do you think they both drop out? How are you approaching the outlook for this split?
I believe Cloud9 and TSM are still going to be 1-2. I believe TSM is the clear number one still. Um, I know teams are getting better, and we continue to say that because it feels like teams are, but it's just like TSM and Cloud9 always just find that way to still be the top two. But especially with Doublelift playing back in the lineup for TSM, they're just going to get better, and especially with that aggressive play style, the aggressive play calling, fight, fight, fight. It's a scary TSM team when it comes down to that. It's just only if we could move this to worlds and internationally and stuff like that. But um, I think 1-2 stays the same. TSM 1, C9. I think still is the second best. Teams are getting better, as I said, but I think those still are the two clear favorites at 1 and 2.
I totally agree. I still think it is, yeah, TSM at 1, Cloud9 at 2. Um, you know, we had some people that talked to us and they said that they felt that TSM might take a little step back because of Doublelift now being in the lineup versus Wild Turtle, because of the synchronization in the bot lane.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I think some people forget is Doublelift and Biofrost played together
Yes.
already. That's how Biofrost essentially became, the big rookie that everyone was like, holy crap, is because he played with Doublelift and those two, were in perfect sync right away and just, skyrocketed off that. So if Doublelift still plays to the way that everyone expects Doublelift to be, you know, this team has gotten just that much more, a little bit better,
I
with
mean,
I still don't think he's that much of an upgrade over Wild Turtle, but it's still enough of an upgrade that I understand why TSM was like, hey, you know what, Doublelift, you want to come back to the team, just let us know.
the reason why it's that much of an upgrade isn't simply because of Doublelift himself. Like, well, it is, but it's not in the sense that because Doublelift is coming back in the lineup, that frees up Bjergsen to play his style, what he wants to do, and not worry about calling everything around the map. Because Doublelift is the vote when he's in the lineup. It's Doublelift that they listen to.
Mhm.
Bjergsen's still going to make calls, but it's double lift calls that count. He becomes a shot caller. That allows Bjergsen to become the Bjergsen we all know, the dominant, the best mid laner, next to Faker, in the world. And that really puts that team at even, in that next level. And Biofrost obviously gets better with double lift in that lineup. I think the aggressive play, double lift knows what to do, and he knows how to make that support thrive off of the playstyle.
Oh
And
yeah.
Haunter with the changes coming around, there's going to be a lot more focused around Haunter's lane because of the Rift Hero and stuff changes, man. Like Haunter's gonna, I think, benefit majorly with changes, especially with such a NA top, like strong top lane um, group of guys that we have. They're all going to benefit from this change because there's going to be a lot of focus topside in the early game. Svenskeren, we know, can play tanks. He's
Mhm.
played Gragas. He's played. I mean, Rek'Sai is not, her changes. They nerfed her down and, changes stuff. But we know she can play the tankier side as well. That team overall, though, it's stacked when it comes to this coming split. And it's why they're the clear number one to me. As
Now
much
the
as I
one
want
thing,
to say C9, but,
yeah, and the one thing I would do want to ask you is just because obviously we have been talking about the top lane, and the top lane is very stacked in NA currently.
Mm.
Um, because they're shifting a little away more from, you're gonna have the carrier top lanes. Do you think with Cloud9, do you think we'll see more switches of Impact and Ray in that fact? I mean, I know Impact can play whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
that's not, a question. The main question though is Ray has always been a carry top laner. So do you feel like we'll see more flips between Impact and Ray during this split, or do you feel like they're going to do as they did last split, which is Impact will play the most of it and they'll give Ray, times here and there, basically preparing for when Impact decides to leave, Ray can step right in.
I think it's going to be somewhat about the same as they did last split, but Ray played a lot more than I expected last
He
split,
definitely
actually.
played more than I
Because
expected to.
I'm pretty sure at every single um, group, like every series, he pretty much stepped in for at least a game, if I'm not correct. Not maybe not, but it was pretty close. Because I remember seeing him come in at least a game in a series, and some of them he finished them out. Some of them he played both games over Impact, just to it's what they felt like doing. But it amazes me though that Impact can still. I mean, it's what we know Impact's for. It's just his play. It is his own style of like this is what makes Impact Impact. And no matter if he sits out for a game or two and he comes in for the last one, Impact still is Impact. Like there's no slowing that dude down. But I think we're gonna get. I think Ray's going to benefit from this, of course, with the changes, with focusing on that top lane. But I can say I think Cloud9's definitely going to have a very strong top lane duel right there. That they're they're going to have a big benefit from being able to play either or.
I will say this. So I can't look if he quickly if Ray played in every split, but I will say he played a total of 10 games over the course of it. So roughly he played at least one game per weekend.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So he may not have played in every split, or not every split, but every
Yeah.
series, because obviously they would play two per weekend, but he at least played once per weekend. It is at least one of these he either played in two games of that series or played in both series of one weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, played a lot more than I anticipated. Um, you know, while I was looking that up, the other factor I do want to quickly ask you before we get into our next topic is, in what scenario do you see Cloud9 being able to jump TSM?
Um. I guess meta adjustment. I mean, I know I just talked about the fact that I believe TSM is going to be able to benefit strongly on this meta change, but um, who says that for some reason that Cloud9 doesn't benefit more so of this meta change because of having Ray at the top lane as well that could
Mhm.
benefit strongly from it. Um, uh, with more of a disruptive jungler coming out, um, that's going to be a big thing too. Is seeing contracts adjust to the switch to that. But if he can get more of a disruptive jungler, that could benefit Jensen a ton because we all know we play through Jensen a lot, and honestly, right now as well. I think Sneaky benefits a lot from this meta switch because you're gonna be getting the Caitlyn's those type of carries out now right now. Like
Mhm.
that's what's coming up is a Caitlyn type of ADC and Sneaky's really good with those with them. So I think Sneaky definitely makes a jump in this meta, but I don't know. I think it's just who adjusts to the meta quicker and sustains it over the other one. But it's gonna be so hard. It's hard to find an argument to say Cloud9's gonna as much as I would love it, it's hard to say that because, especially because TSM just always finds a way.
They usually do, to be honest. All right, so let's get into our next topic, and I know again this is something that we basically had pre-planned to talk about this because I know you have a gripes about it, I have slight gripes about it, um, and essentially we're gonna start it with this: who, what team did you feel needed to make the most adjustments heading into this split to try and, you know, I guess get into that top four, top three position? Um, who would you have said needed to make the most adjustments?
I saw that smirk there. You know what I'm gonna say. I know.
Well, that's why I'm
I
presenting it for the people that are listening and watching
yes,
now.
yes. Liquid man. Um,
So now, real quick, before you do that, Liquid obviously essentially made, I mean, grand scheme of things, at the end of the split, yes, they made changes, but they made no changes because it's the same exact team that they had going into the spring
yes.
split and in the same exact positions. So, Kyle, I want to ask you, um, what do you think of the changes that were made? And then also, what do you think that this makes for the team?
What really gets me is the ownership sitting there coming out with multiple videos. We apologize for this. We're sorry. Changes are coming. We need to make changes. We need to adjust. We got to do everything we can to bring back what we had before. We've got to
They
just
brought back
get
what they
better.
had before.
And they sure did. They made zero change from what they started to with last split. Granted, when I originally saw this article, I was like, "What are you guys doing? It's free
just
low. It's free low,
just for
man."
the listeners and viewers, he actually posted relegation 2.0.
Yeah, I did originally. I posted that because I mean we saw what happened with the sign up last week. They just nothing worked. They had to bring double lifts as a rental player. They had to fight and claw their way out of relegation, and it took forever. You're bringing back the golden glue, golden poo is what a lot of Twitch chat calls them, which that's pretty rough. But
Hmm.
um, you made no adjustments at all. Matt, all they talked about is how bad Matt has done. He just downgraded majorly. Like he wasn't the Matt that we knew. The only player here that was consistent and did perform was Lolo.
Oh
That's
yeah.
the only person that played well, and they made no adjustment for this team to try to help that. But I think to kind of what somewhat tone down my somewhat of a rage of a little laughing inside of like, what the hell are you guys doing? That I'm gonna be able to troll the hell out of Darcy, troll the hell out of you all split. Like, look at your team, you guys are trash. It is again with the meta changing. Some of these players can highly benefit from it. Because the Rainover we saw last split was not the Rainover we know.
No,
And it has to do because, to me, with the meta that was currently there, it didn't really benefit his playstyle. With the switch coming around, I think having that really disruptive jungler, which he loves, it's going to benefit him majorly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Rainover, if that helps Rainover single-handedly out to somewhat even get back, half or a little bit more than half of what he was, that gives them a couple more wins. Like, that could benefit single-handedly wins in that win column. As I mean, I'm not going to go into baseball logic, but they keep stats of this player is a minus something from wins because like having him out there can cost you a win or two.
Mm-hmm.
That's Rainover. Like he can gain wins because of the adjustment here. Warlow's going to benefit from the adjustment. I think Piglet's going to benefit from the adjustment. Like I think single-handedly, the meta is what could have caused them to say, you know what, the meta's coming to us. Let's see what happens. But now, if it doesn't work, and they're posting videos all over again, oh man, are things gonna get heated for that team overall? Like inside and out, it's gonna get bad.
I think, to be honest, so yes, it will get bad if it gets back to that again. But I will say, I think the Golden Glue is going to have a short leash. Do I think he deserves? Do I think, to be honest, for me, do I think he deserves the short leash? No, but you're going to have to because of the way that things turned out last split and again, fan outcry. Like you need to try to keep the fans behind you because if the fans aren't behind you, then the players feel unsupportive. And if they feel unsupportive, then they're not going to perform as well. It's kind of a snowball effect. However, the main reason they brought Golden Glue back, and I actually do agree with, I didn't agree with him starting, but I did agree bringing him back, is after he was benched, Golden Glue apparently was like super like ticked off and upset and thought about obviously being done with League of Legends and was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And for some reason, he basically decided, you know what? I want to do League of Legends. I want to be a pro and I need to get better. And so the dude flew over to Korea and stayed with his Korean Challenger team for like 3 months, I think it was, just playing nonstop, listening to them. He got into Masters over in Korea. I saw a rumor about Challenger as well, but I don't know if he got into Challenger. But I know he did get into Master over in Korea. Played against, Faker and stuff. He actually, I think there's a video surfacing where he soloed out Faker in a solo queue. Yeah. I mean, that like blew up. If I remember correctly, there is a video out there. So, comment below if I'm wrong. But he did a lot to basically try to get better. And he said in this article that that came out about it is that after doing all that and talking with this team and stuff, like he learned or like he just feels more confident as a player. He feels less pressure, even though he's going to have the pressure and he knows it. And obviously we all know he's going to have that pressure. He feels less pressure because he does feel like he's gave it his all at this point. And if he's not better, then he's just not destined to play professionally. And so I agree. That's why I agree with, you know what? Bring him back. Give him a chance and we'll see what happens. Do I agree that he should be the starter? No, not really. Especially when, even though my fanboy kicks in, when we have Link and Slushy as your backup mid laners.
Yeah, exactly. We know Slushy's an extremely good player as well.
Oh, yes. So, but because of that story, as much as I am a Liquid fanboy, obviously everyone who listens to this podcast knows that. That article alone just made me feel more like, you know what? I do hope that this actually works out for Golden Glue. So I hope that this is the smart decision. The only thing that I have problems with overall is the fact that there is no change in the starting role.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly the same spring split starters. Now, does that mean that they can't come out, and kick butt? No, they could totally do that, and I would be completely happy. But it just feels like, exactly as you said, they posted video after video and tweet after tweet about how they were so sorry. This is not Team Liquid. This is not, the results that they desire. All this and stuff. Changes are coming. And even in the mid season, Liquid, Steve Archent, if I remember that's how you pronounce his last name, the owner for Team Liquid, did a update and said that we're doing tryouts and there's going to be changes X, Y, and Z, and in none show, unless their changes were we're going to bring in Slushy and Conquan. I mean,
now
technically that's changes, but it's not the changes that anyone was looking for. It's so tough being a Team Liquid fan at the moment. Because at least before I could always just be like, dude, forever fourth. We're always fourth.
Yeah.
This
playoffs.
this time it's avoid relegation, please. I don't want to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go through that again. That was so scary and heartbreaking the entire time.
Especially with the teams that we had in the NA side of things with the relegation tournament. Those were tough talented teams.
The Gold Coin United, I thought was coming up. I thought they were coming up, and I mean they just barely didn't fall. And I mean they even got a better squad now. So the chance they go up now.
I know that's gonna be scary, man. And that's really impressive, as you said. Towards Golden Glue story. Again, for those, everybody should know by now. Boot camp in Korea, playing in Korea solo queue, is 100% different than playing in NA's trashy ass solo queue. Mm-hmm. And as much as we're NA fanboys, when it comes to solo queue, man, Korea takes it 100% serious. They play it like a legit competitive game. I mean, if they know the game is lost, as much as we don't surrender, they know a game is lost, and it's probably why they do so well as well. They surrender instantly just to get another game in, just to keep going.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they get so much under the belt. But they take solo queue extremely seriously, whereas in NA, it's not as tough, not as serious. A lot of just lackluster whateverness, attitudes and everything else. It's so much different. So him doing what he did over there is a really good thing. But you were talking. You mentioned about short leash. Do you believe Matt as well is going to be on that short leash with having Conquan backing him up? Because Conquan's a pretty good supporter.
Here's the thing, and this is my only big question is, I would say yes, because again, Conquan is a good support. However, Conquan, if I remember correctly, would take an import spot, and that would be 3 imports on the team. Mm. That's the hang up, is what do they do if Matt struggles still? Because then, essentially, to me, that spells Piglet and Matt are on a short leash.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Because I don't see them making any changes with Reignover.
No, Reignover's in.
Reignover is, high, low, whatever he does, that dude's going to stay in. But Conquan, if I remember correctly, is not he's not been over long enough to be considered a resident now like Bjergsen is.
Mm-hmm.
and I know Reignover definitely isn't. And before the changes, I think Piglet was getting close to it, but Piglet's not close
Is
anymore.
Piglet with Impact right now? Like, because Impact after this split is considered resident, so which is going to be really interesting for Cloud9 because that leaves in another option for them
Hmm.
next year. But that of course is way down the road discussion when that comes around. But um, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Impact does become resident after this summer split, and I can't remember if Piglet was a year behind him or was he with Impact? Did they come around the same time?
I I think they came around the same time. So hold on, I'm reading an old article. So okay, so essentially, yeah, it essentially him and Impact are in the same boat. The teams that the rule change affected, according to this article, and I don't remember, this article is from 2016. The people that it impacted was Phoenix, Piglet, Impact, and Ryu. Those were the main ones that it
Rush
impacted.
as
That
well.
came to it. Well, again, this is an article in
Yeah, yeah,
December
yeah.
2016, so this is
Okay,
after Rush had already taken off. Um, so yeah, that's the biggest people that it impacted. So yeah, that's um yeah, so that it's definitely gonna, he's not homegrown yet, so that would mean basically that, yeah, I don't know how they would handle it, because yeah, you think that they brought Conquan in because they're like, hey man, Matt, if you don't step it up, we're gonna put Conquan in. They could have also brought Conquan in to push Matt, but at the
yeah.
same
Yes,
time,
right.
that's what we thought that they did with Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
And they never really put
They
Adrian in
never
until
put him
like
in.
the very last time. But then by that point, like, no matter what, Adrian wasn't going to help out. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be especially teams is gonna get better this coming summer split. How important summer split is. Um, Dig started coming around somewhat. I mean, they're not what we expect them to be, but they started to win uh, more games than what they were losing at the beginning. They were starting to finish off certain games. COG's become a little bit more consistent.
Hmm.
Then and COG can really um, take a step forward with the change that they've made now with Dardoch. But again, uh, there's the whole issue of, can we be the guys that change Dardoch's ways when Dardoch's just Dardoch? Um,
Hmm.
but I think they still can. Overall, though, Envy's still the same roster as well. You know, they. I don't know if they're going to get any better. Echo Fox is up and down. They're a 50-50. They're a 500 team. Um, but other than that, though, other than those two teams, like it is, and questions around Dig on what of course, like Dig, like I said, it seems like they're getting better, but still, who knows? But after that, it's pretty solid.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. This is it's why these changes or non-changes make me
Mhm.
nervous for Team Liquid. Kyle, that's all that we had planned on this show to talk about. But is there any last things you want to discuss before we do our final wrap up on this episode?
Just little things. FlyQuest, did they get better? With Wild Turtle in the lineup. We're both fans of Altec, and Altec's a really good ADC, but Wild Turtle, of course, is Wild Turtle, and he's playing next to High, Lemonation, and the rest of those guys. Um, I'm surprised, honestly, they didn't. I mean, Balls didn't have that bad of a season, but still, he became kind of the guy we all know he is.
Hmm.
But still, Wild Turtles playing, around, next to some really good players. Does that make FlyQuest that much better? Or not that much better, but does that move them upward?
I think yes, in the only sense of as much as we are big Alltech fans, like I love Alltech and I still
Mhm.
think he should be starting on some roster. Um, Alltech is more of a utility ADC, and Wild Turtle is more of a playmaking ADC. So this gives FlyQuest another playmaking player on their squad.
Yes.
And I think that Lemonation, as we've always seen, is one of those, supports that will do whatever it takes to make sure his ADC lives. And Wild Turtle is kind of that guy that you need to make sure that he's living. So I think it does make them better in that sense. But, then it becomes, does Wild Turtle throw FlyQuest into bad positions because he's trying to make a play, or does Lemonation not have that ability to save his ADC as much as he did when he was on Cloud9, that, Wild
Mhm.
Turtle just dies over and over and over. But I do think that this pickup um, does make FlyQuest better, but do I think it was necessary? No, because I still think you have just as good I shouldn't say just as good since I did say they're better, but I don't think you lose that much
Mhm.
having Alltech there being that utility ADC. Like I don't think the playmaking ability um, was enough to be like, you know what, let's bring him on. But it does overall, in my mind, make them better.
All right, that is all we had for you, folks, today. Um, we went over quite a bit of things there. We'll get more into detail, of course, in the future. But I hope everybody enjoys this upcoming weekend. It's gonna be really fun. Uh, of course, comment below. Keep following our YouTube and check out our podcast on SoundCloud, The Rift. Just look it up there if you just want to listen to the audio version of it. Um, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on SoundCloud. Check me out on Twitter at TFL Cowdoom. Ask me any questions you have on there, and we'll definitely enjoy this weekend. And please, again, like, subscribe, follow, comment, um, conversate with us so we can answer your questions. And again, this is Cowdoom Gloria, and please tune in next week as we continue to bring you the news from the Rift.